Trump, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to have you on Fox and Friends today. As you said in your tweet, another slow news week. Let's start with the fact that the story that Griff just brought us, that it sounds like a former FBI lawyer, it sounds like, was doing something with the FISA application. That person got removed. And this goes to your argument that somebody at the FBI was out to get you, right?
Well, it certainly does. And they were spying on my campaign, and it went right up to the top. And everybody knows it, and now we're going to find out. You have Bull Durham, who's supposed to be the toughest. I've never met him, never spoke to him, but he's supposed to be the smartest and the best, and he works for Bill Barr, who's a great attorney general. We would have maybe have ended this thing a lot sooner had he been there originally. But you have some people that are great people now, and patriotic people. They love our country. And this was spying on my campaign, something that has never been done in the history of our country. This was an overthrow attempt at the presidency. They tried to overthrow the presidency. This is a disgrace. But I'm not surprised to see it. It's just starting to come up. I think this is nothing compared to what you'll see over the next couple of weeks.
These media outlets
people are sick.
These media outlets are saying that the FBI lawyer manipulated and altered key documents related to that warrant application so that they could get permission to surveil Carter Page. He was on with Maria, Mornings with Maria, a few minutes ago, and he says it's a cover-up. Listen.
They have just been putting false information out there to the media, the Democrats and their allies in Washington in the media, constantly pushing lies after lies. And then finally, this gets picked up by a court. It gets picked up by the Comey-McCabe FBI, and they got a warrant, a fraudulent warrant, I believe, to spy on myself as a way of getting into the Trump campaign. There has been a continued cover-up to this very day. We still don't have the truth, but hopefully we'll get that soon.
How does this compare with what happened with that Ukraine conversation? Democrats want to impeach you because of that conversation, but this looks pretty bad.
So my conversation was a perfect conversation. The Ukrainian president said, what are they talking about? They must think we're nuts in this country. And this conversation was flawless. It was appropriate. It was perfect. It was nice. It was everything. And they even said that. They came out and said it. Now, compare that, and they try and impeach. And by the way, they've looked like fools over the last 5 days. These interviews and these were their witnesses. This was the best they've got. Adam Schiff is a sick puppy. He is it's been incredible. Now, what you're going to see, I predict, will be perhaps the biggest scandal in the history of our country, political scandal. But I guess that's the biggest, because what's more important than political?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I think you're going to see things that are going to be incredible if it's done right. And I purposely stay out. I tell Bill Barr to handle everything. I wouldn't have to. I could get very much involved, but I purposely don't. And I haven't, and you know what? It's better that way, I guess. I don't have any obligation legally to do that, but I've let them handle it. So you have a FISA report coming out, which the word is, it's historic. That's what the word is. That's what I hear. And if it's historic, you're going to see something. And then perhaps even more importantly, you have Durham coming out shortly thereafter. He's the U.S. attorney, and he's already announced it's criminal. And we'll see what happens.
Mr. President,
I'll tell you what, you have a lot of very, very bad people. And, a lot of people say deep state. Right. I don't like to use the word deep state. I just say they're really bad, sick people.
Mr. President, you say it could be historic. You have suggested in the past that this might go much higher than the Department of Justice or the FBI during the Obama administration. Are you suggesting it could actually go up into the West Wing of the Obama
When you're
years?
dealing at the highest levels of government, they were spying on my campaign. This is my opinion. I said it a long time ago. Remember when I put out a tweet and I talked about the wiretapping in quotes, meaning modern-day version of whatever wiretapping may be, and all hell broke loose.
Well, how high did it go, Mr. President? How high did it go? Your opinion.
I think it goes all the way, okay, because I think it's impossible.
To Barack Obama.
For Brennan and for Clapper and for all of these losers that you had over there, I think it's impossible for them to be doing things. And let's see what it all says. But It's impossible. Susan Rice, the person that worked at the United Nations, who went after FISA reports and went after reports like she ate them for lunch. And, you look at the previous administration, they went after like a few, and she was getting them at levels that nobody's ever even imagined before, and it had nothing to do with her. No, I think this goes to the highest level. I hate to say it. I think it's a disgrace. They thought I was going to win, and they said, how can we stop him? They wrote up the phony fake dossier, the disgusting fake dossier, and they tried to have it put out prior to the election. And just to show you how incompetent they were, they spent millions and millions of dollars. Hillary Clinton paid for it, and the Democrats. A lot of it had to do, they say, with Ukraine.
But Mr. President,
it's very interesting. It's very interesting. They have the server, right, from the DNC, Democratic National Committee.
Who has the server?
Now, the FBI went in and they told him, get out of here. We're not giving it to you. They gave the server to CrowdStrike or whatever it's called, which is a company owned by a very wealthy Ukrainian. And I still want to see that server. You know, the FBI has never gotten that server. That's a big part of this whole thing. Why did they give it to a Ukrainian company?
Are you sure they did that? Are you sure they gave it to Ukraine?
Well, that's what the word is, and that's what I asked actually in my phone call, if you know.
Right.
I mean, I asked it very point blank because we're looking for corruption. There's tremendous corruption. We're looking for, why should we be giving hundreds of millions of dollars to countries when there's this kind of corruption?
Right.
And if you look at my call, I said, you know, corruption. I think he said it to me. He got elected on the basis of corruption. And I also, by the way, going back to that, why isn't Germany putting up money? Why isn't France putting up money? Why isn't all of the European nations? Why aren't they putting up? You have the European Union, and they're benefited a lot more by Ukraine than we are.
But, Mr. President, can I ask you...
like a massive wall, yes. Why aren't they putting up money? How come it's always the United States that puts up money? The suckers. Why is it always the United States? And these are the questions I ask, and I continue to ask them.
I'm sure. Mr. President, the best you can. I know you've said that from day one about wiretapping, and you felt as though the previous administration basically seems to have set you up to really struggle for the first 3 years. Who is your source? Well, what are your sources that are telling you that the Obama administration was out to really hurt your administration?
Well, first of all, Brian, I haven't struggled because I've done more in the first 2.5 years than any president in the history of our country, and almost everybody admits it. Between rebuilding our military, the biggest tax cut in history, regulation.
Would you say they've been in your way? Would you say they've been in your way?
Well, wait a second. 2 Supreme Court justices. Within a few weeks, we'll have 182 federal judges. It's a record. So I've done more than anybody that's ever had the position in a short time. But they haven't made it pleasant. They're bad people. They hurt a lot of innocent people. People came down here. They got served subpoenas by Mueller and the crew, and they went through 2.5 years. They found nothing. So when you say that, I think we've had the most productive presidency ever for the first 2.5 years, but it doesn't mean that it was pleasant.
No, I know, but maybe I should have been clearer. My point is this. I know you've had that point of view, and some things are coming that direction to prove it. But who is your source that's telling you this?
I can't tell you that. I can only say that we have a lot of information that a lot of bad things happened. And when you look at Strzok and Page with the insurance policy, where, you know, the two great lovers from the FBI, where he's saying, oh, she's going to win $100 million to nothing, but just in case she loses, we have an insurance policy. Well, that means, you know, we're going to take him down. We're going to take down the president. You wouldn't even believe this is possible. But the insurance policy, that was a very big find, finding that text. And the only reason we found it was they didn't want to use their private servers for a very bad reason, okay? So they used the public server. They used the FBI server. So here's the thing. We have so many, regardless of what's coming out, okay, the information that we have now is beyond belief already. But what they have coming out, I hear, is historic. That's the way it was explained.
All right, coming out in December.
Historic.
All right, Mr. President.
Now, of course, the fake news will try and downplay it, but I don't think you can downplay this.
Not
the
now.
Fake news is part of it. You know, it's the Democrats and the fake news. They're one and the same. They will downplay it because, like I see these hearings where we have a great day, and then you pick up the phony New York Times, which is a total phony paper. I don't read it anymore. You can't read it. It's not even, it has no relationship to the truth. And you read a story that took place, and they don't tell you what happened. They only put in the bad. They don't put in the good. Same thing with the Washington Post. It's a phony paper. We no longer have it in the White House.
Mr. President,
and we saved a lot of money.
When we're watching those closing arguments yesterday, Adam Schiff, I mean, Democrats love it. You know, I'm sure he's getting pat on the back every time he walks down the halls in Washington because people are saying, keep pushing, we want impeachment. But if you ask Republicans, and we're going to play a soundbite of his closing arguments, they say this is all theatrics. Watch this and we're going to get your reaction.
Okay.
It came down to the fact that the day after Bob Mueller testified, that Donald Trump invited Russian interference. Hey, Russia, if you're listening, come get Hillary's emails. And later that day, they tried to hack her server. The day after that, Donald Trump is back on the phone asking another nation to involve itself in another U.S. election. That says to me, this president believes he is above the law, beyond accountability.
Mr. President, was there quid pro quo, extortion, bribery?
No, not at all. And let me tell you, he's a sick puppy. He's so sick. This guy is so. I've been going through it for 2.5 years about Russia. I've been tougher on Russia than any president in history. But for 2.5 years, I've had to listen. This was their talking point, Trump and Russia. And if you take a look at it, just look at the facts. Even look at what I've done for Ukraine by giving them tank busters, by giving them stuff. And Obama would send pillows and sheets. He wouldn't send anything else. It's the whole thing. Now, Schiff, remember this. He makes it all up. He's sick. There's something wrong with him. So he made up my phone call. He made it up. He made up a phone call. And then when I released it, everybody was embarrassed. And crazy Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, is going to go down as the worst speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, she hasn't done anything. All she said, she's like paralyzed. She cannot do anything.
Well, Mr. President,
I predict she won't do USMCA because Richard Trumka, who's a good guy, but a big union guy, only cares about a union. Richard Trumka has her mortified. She won't do USMCA, and everybody in the country wants it, the farmers, the manufacturers. But Richard Trumka has her like he plays her like a fiddle. And I predict she won't even do it. And by the way, she's got such pressure on her to do it. All she has to do is put it to a vote. Right. She's holding it for 6 months. It's growing dust on her desk. And Mexico and Canada are calling saying, what's going on? Where's our agreement? They signed it. They're all set.
Mr. President,
that's the big thing.
A couple of days ago, your ambassador to the EU, Mr. Sondland, in his opening statement, said that there was quid pro quo. There was quid pro quo, he said, because you wanted an investigation into corruption in exchange for a visit to the White House or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's total nonsense. I do want always corruption. I say that to anybody. Why should we give money to a country that's known corrupt? It's a very corrupt country. I mean, I love the people in Ukraine. I know Ukrainian people. They're great people. But it's known as being the third most corrupt country in the world. Now, with this guy, who, by the way, I hardly know him, okay?
Sondland?
I've spoken to him a few times. How about the guy with the telephone? How about that one? I guarantee you that never took place. He said he's sitting there listening to me. I spoke so few times to him. But the guy yesterday on the telephone, David Holmes, yes, I heard the conversation. Well, I have really good hearing. And I've been watching guys for 40 years make phone calls. And I can't hear when and you could be 2 feet away. I can't hear people making calls. I can't hear the other side. The phone's up in the air unless you have it on a speakerphone. You can't do it. Right. That was a total phony deal. That was a phone, again, call it deep state.
Right, but Mr. President,
call it anti-Trump people.
Your ambassador said that there was quid pro quo because you wanted an investigation into corruption, but it involved Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And then it becomes like, look, he's going after dirt on the Bidens because Joe Biden could be his opponent in 2020.
First of all, that's not true. Okay, number one, it's absolutely not true. Now, then you have to say,
you
saw Joe Biden, Joe Biden is corrupt.
Okay.
It's not true, what he said. Now, what he said also is there was no quid pro quo. I want nothing. Remember, it was trending number one. I want nothing. He said that when he was questioned. And by the way, check out his lawyers. They're Hillary Clinton lawyers. This guy has Hillary Clinton lawyers. They're Democrats.
Sondland.
But he's sitting there, Sondland, he's sitting there with Clinton lawyers. They're passing him notes all the time. And he didn't put the most important phrase in his 22-page statement that he read. The most important phrase was, I want nothing. Twice I said it. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Have President Zelensky do whatever is right, something to that effect. And they didn't put that in. That was the end of him. I said, turn off the television. That's what he said. Right. Now, with all of that, of course you have to look at corruption. Are we going to be sending massive amounts of money to a country and they're corrupt and they steal the money and it goes into everybody's bank account? So you have to look at that. And I will tell you this about Joe Biden. I never said it specifically on him, but I watched Joe Biden with the prosecutor, who a lot of people said was a great prosecutor, and they took him off. And he was prosecuting that company. And the kid who never made 10 cents in his life and all of a sudden is making millions of dollars the day he... I mean, you tell me, this is a guy who got thrown out of the Navy dishonorably. He gets thrown out of the Navy shortly thereafter and made no money. Went through, made no money.
But Mr. President,
then all of a sudden his father becomes VP, and he's making millions and millions of dollars, not only from there, but from China.
So, Mr. President, the accusation is this, that you're using aid, taxpayer dollars, to attack a political opponent in Joe Biden. And you say, I wanted to hold up that aid because of corruption, but you also in the phone call...
Reason too. No, two reasons.
Okay.
For corruption, because it's known, I want to make sure the money is going to be spent properly. But there's another reason that is maybe to me the most important.
Which is?
Why isn't Germany, France, the European Union, why aren't all those countries in Europe, why aren't they paying? Why is it always the United States, the sucker? I got elected on that.
But they do give aid. They do give aid. We give more, we always have. But, Mr. President, you decide to say Rudy Giuliani, your longtime friend, mayor and prosecutor, you send him into the Ukraine. I want you to hear what Ambassador Sondland said, and it's been pretty consistent among State Department workers. It seems like Rudy Giuliani was getting under a lot of people's skin. I want you to listen to what he said.
Well, that's Rudy. You don't
I want you to hear. Listen, I've known him for a long time, too. Let's listen.
Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and I worked with Mr. Rudy Giuliani on Ukraine matters at the express direction of the President of the United States. We did not want to work with Mr. Giuliani. We all understood that if we refused to work with Mr. Giuliani, we would lose a very important opportunity to cement relations between the United States and Ukraine.
So why was it necessary to put Rudy in the middle of the Ukraine, a country he knew little about, as opposed to let the people do their jobs there and just give them the same mission?
Okay, first of all, Volker, I don't know him. This guy, Sondland, hardly know him. I've had a couple of conversations with him. I see him hanging around, when I go to Europe. But he was really the European Union ambassador. And all of a sudden, he's working on this and, ask about that. Rick Perry, I know him very well. Frankly, I'd like Rick to make a statement, and Rick would make a statement. He's a great guy. I think he already made a statement. Great guy. Rudy is a great crime fighter. Rudy is the best mayor in the history of New York City. Rudy Giuliani is a very legendary figure in our country. Rudy was the U.S. attorney. He also worked at the Justice Department. Believe me, this kind of crap wouldn't have happened in the Justice Department if Rudy Giuliani was the attorney general, just like I believe Bill Barr will straighten it out and straighten it out for good. But Rudy Giuliani was one of the great crime fighters of all time. He's also a friend of mine. He's a great person. He's like an iconic figure in this country for two reasons. He was the greatest mayor in the history of New York, and he was the greatest crime fighter probably in the last 50 years. When you're dealing with a corrupt country, if Rudy Giuliani, he's got credentials because of his reputation. When Rudy Giuliani goes there and you hear it's a corrupt country, I mean, it means a lot.
But two of his sources are indicted are right now in jail. Those are two of his sources, and one of his other sources is looked at as a corrupt figure. So in the end, it seems like you had State Department and Rudy Giuliani working against each other, and then the accusation comes in that your ambassador is being tarnished by Rudy Giuliani.
Look, the ambassador, the woman, she wouldn't even put up, she's an Obama person, But I said, why are you being so kind? Well, sir, she's a woman. We have to be nice. She's very tough. I heard bad things. And by the way, when I was talking to President Zelensky, it's right on the phone. You can read it.
Yep.
He didn't like her. He brought up her name, and he didn't like her at all. How do you have an ambassador with the president, the new president, does that? Because she was so wedded in. And don't forget, Ukraine hated me. They were after me in the election. They wanted Hillary Clinton to win. And when I won, all of a sudden they became so nice. They had to make up. There were many articles where they had to, get to be friendly, because we're like a gravy train for them, okay? We're like their gravy train. So they were totally in favor of Hillary Clinton. But this ambassador that, everybody says is so wonderful, she wouldn't hang my picture in the embassy, okay? She's in charge of the embassy. She wouldn't hang it. It took like 1.5 years or 2 years for her to get the picture up. She said bad things about me. She wouldn't defend me, and I have the right to change an ambassador. And Rudy didn't say good things, but he wasn't crazy about it. It wasn't like a major topic. But I have the right to change. This was an Obama person. Didn't want to hang my picture in the embassy. It's standard is you put the president of the United States picture in an embassy. This was not an angel, this woman, okay? There are a lot of things that she did that I didn't like. And we will talk about that at some time. Okay. But I just want to let you know, this was not a baby that we're dealing with.
There was one woman who was in all of these testimonies this week who was sticking up for you, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She was asking questions, doing her job. She said her constituents want to get to the bottom of what happened with the Bidens and that investigation. She questioned Tim Morrison and Kurt Volker on Capitol Hill. Listen to this.
Okay.
But the truth is, the facts are indeed not complicated. And I'm going to close out with 2 questions for the both of you. Did Ukraine open an investigation into the Bidens, Mr. Morrison?
Not to my knowledge, ma'am.
Ambassador Volker?
Not to my knowledge either.
Did either of you ever have any evidence of quid pro quo, Mr. Morrison?
No, ma'am.
Ambassador Volker?
I did not.
Any evidence of bribery?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
She's been raked over the coals for that. Kellyanne Conway's husband was one of the ones that called her trash.
So, I'll tell you, first of all, she's become a star. Every time you do something, you have guys like Jim Jordan and Meadows, and all these guys, they've been around and they're stars, but they've been stars. Every once in a while, you meet a new star. I know a lot about stardom. I know a lot about it. I've made plenty of them. But I'll tell you what, this young woman from upstate New York, she has become a star. Her way, you can never define exactly what it is. You understand that. You're a star, okay? Why? Who the hell knows? But you're a star. There aren't many of them. But what happens is she has become a star. Her mannerism, her way of talking, her...
She's direct, right to the point.
No, it's just the whole thing. It just worked. She's a tremendous person. She was fantastic during the hearings. Turner... so many people, they were so great. But you know what? The bottom line is all of those witnesses, they're all shifty shifts. Don't forget, there was no due process. You can't have lawyers. We couldn't have any witnesses. Right. We want to call the whistleblower. But you know who I want as the first witness? Because, frankly, I want a trial. I could have it.
You want a trial?
Whatever I want. Oh, I would. Look, number one, they should never, ever impeach. This is not impeach. I watched 5 people on your network yesterday say there's nothing here. Andy McCarthy, how about Ken, special prosecutor, special counsel, Ken Starr, he was fantastic. He said there's nothing here. So, ready? Number one, there should never be an impeachment. This is not an impeachment. That phone call was totally appropriate, okay, totally. But assuming these people are as sleazy as they are, and Nancy Pelosi is totally incompetent, she's absolutely lost. She doesn't know what she's doing. She hasn't done anything. She can't get anything approved. Everybody's working on this, and they just got blown away because they put their witnesses up, and we're not going to get USMCA because
so you want a trial.
The farmers and everyone are going to vote against Democrats like you've never seen before. But if they do put it up because they're crazy, I mean, Adam Schiff is a nut job. Listen to this. Adam Schiff gets up before Congress, and he made up my statement.
Right.
And I said, who made that statement?
Right. Mr.
He
President.
made it up. And then after he got caught, 3 days later, he started saying parody.
Right.
The thing I did that was right, Brian, the thing I did that was right was I released the transcript of the call immediately.
Right.
Had I not done that, I would have had a big problem. A big problem. Because they all lied about my call. My call was perfect. If you heard Adam Schiff's made-up version of my call, I mean, it was the worst thing I've ever heard. I said, how could that be possible? And you know the sad part? Because he made it in the halls of Congress, he has immunity. Right. I can't sue him. The Republican Party can't sue him. And one other thing before we get off. The Republican Party Oh, yeah, well, I know. We can keep this going all day, right? It's easy. But look, the Republican Party has never been more unified. Both the Senate and the House, Mitch, Lindsey, I could name 20 names up there. They have never had, look, we won 196-0. That never happens. You know, I always say the Democrats are lousy politicians. They have lousy policy, but they stick together, and they're vicious.
Right. Well,
they're more vicious, frankly. But the Republicans, they have a tendency, they break up. They don't. The Republicans, I've never seen anything like it. They're sticking together.
We understand that there were 6 Republican senators, this is a perfect transition into this question, who talked to you yesterday, along with the White House lawyer. I know Jared Kushner was there. You're trying to figure out some sort of strategy going forward, because it does look as if Nancy Pelosi, you know, her back is up against the wall. She's going to have to go ahead and proceed with the impeachment vote. It's going to wind up in the Senate, and you say that you, to your earlier point, you want a full trial, because then you will wind up with, according to the story, due process, which you feel you did not get with Adam Schiff, which means you can call your own witnesses, and you would love to see Hunter Biden in the chair to answer all those questions about Ukraine.
Well, there's only one person I want more than Where's Hunter, and that is Adam Schiff. I want to put that guy with his way.
What's your first question for Adam Schiff?
I almost said something that might have been slightly controversial.
Yes.
I didn't just say. I'm learning. See that, Steve? I'm learning.
What?
But after all these years, I finally learned. But look, I want to see Adam Schiff testify about the whistleblower, who's a fake whistleblower, because the whistleblower report was about my conversation with the president of Ukraine. It bore no relationship. It said there were 7 or 8 quid pro quos. There were none. It bore no relationship to my call. Nobody brings that out. The whistleblower is, in my opinion, a political operative, just like his lawyer, who's one of the worst people in
You think
Washington.
you know who it is?
I know exactly who it is. Everybody does.
Is he still there?
Media.
Is he still there? Does he go to meetings? Does he go to meetings?
And by the way, you know who the whistleblower is too. Otherwise, you're not doing your job. You know who everybody knows it. If the whistleblower were on the other side, they would have revealed the whistleblower 2 months ago.
Mr. President.
But the Democrats and their machine, the media machine, the fake, corrupt media, they protect. But you know who the whistleblower is, so do I know it. But I want the whistleblower who put in a false report to testify. I want to know, why did the IG put in the report? You have an IG, right? Why did the IG, instead of saying, let me take the report, let me now go to the White House, ask the president to declassify his conversation so that it has to match up. He didn't do that. So what you do is you have a whistleblower with a fake story, just like it's just as fake as Schiff's story. That's why a lot of people think that Schiff basically is essentially the whistleblower. You know, he told the whistleblower what to do. I mean, his whole story that he doesn't know the whistleblower. If he doesn't, then he's the only person in Washington that doesn't. And it's already been acknowledged that his staff met with the whistleblower, okay? It is probably more than his staff.
All right, so go ahead.
No, but the one I want to testify most is Shifty Schiff, and I want to find out, why did he make up my statement? He made up my statement, and I want to find that out. Why did Shifty Schiff, who's a crooked politician, he's a corrupt politician, why did he make up my statement? He made up a statement, and I'm listening to it.
Because he didn't think you were going to release the transcript.
No, that's right, exactly. Where this whole thing fell apart, and where, frankly, the Republicans became so incredibly unified is after they read my statement. Right. Every one of them said, the only ones that are a little off on my statement are the people that haven't quite read it yet. They say, well, this isn't impeachable, but they didn't. I said, did
if you read it, Democrats are going to say it was quid pro quo. If you're a conservative, you're going to say no, it wasn't. Well, they're saying that it was. They believe in a roundabout way it was.
Well, Adam Schiff says what I said, too, and it was totally different. And
but the bottom line is this an impeachable offense? Did you do anything that they can impeach you for?
There's nothing there. Right. In fact, they asked these terrible witnesses yesterday. Again, I don't even know these people. You know, I come to Washington. So you've had Bush, and you have never-Trumpers. So you have Bush, you have Clinton, you have Obama. So you have 24 years of people in positions, right? Then I come in with no experience, which is a good thing, but I know life. And I come in and I end up with thousands of people that are never-Trumpers, Clinton people, and sometimes the never-Trumpers are worse than Clinton and Obama people, believe me. You know, I mean, it's an amazing phenomenon.
But that's one thing. President Obama released yes.
Well, listen to this for a second. With no experience, at doing this, but I've had a lot of experience in life, and we're doing great as a country, and we're respected again as a country, and we were not respected. With no experience, I come to Washington. I've defeated the Clinton dynasty, I've defeated the Bush dynasty, and I've defeated the Obama, whatever you want to call it, right? The three biggest. I've defeated them all at one time with no experience. The hatred is incredible. But I have to deal with crazy Nancy. I mean, she's crazy as a bedbug. She is nuts. And what she's doing, and she's not talented, she's highly overrated. All she's doing is sitting. She's not doing any work for the people. And now it turns out that the whole impeachment thing is a scam.
Gotcha. So,
and now on top of it, now you're starting to get some feedback that the IG report is coming out, and I think that will be
explosive.
The greatest political scandal in the history of our country.
And if we could just now let's switch and let's talk a little bit about 2020.
Oh, I'd like. Let me just interrupt for a second, Mr. President. You said we know the name of the whistleblower. We've seen names on the internet. We have no idea who the whistleblower is.
Right.
No, I don't believe. Steve, can I tell you? I know you.
I don't know.
I know you.
I've seen names, but I don't know who it is.
But it's a. All right.
I don't think Steve has ever told a lie, Ainsley and Brian, in his life. But that one, I'm sort of thinking, come on.
So you expected
you're a great person. I'm always telling people I watch your show in the morning. I don't watch the other garbage.
No, we've seen names online, but Mr. President, we don't have any verification.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. We're not going to use it.
You
We're
don't
not
need verification. You know exactly who it is, Steve.
Right.
Okay, but I like that you say that.
Right. So Mr. President, you expect an impeachment vote. You expect to get impeached, and would you say you embrace the idea?
I don't expect it.
You don't expect it? You don't expect Democrats going to vote for this?
I think it's very hard for them to impeach you when they have absolutely nothing. No, I would expect that. Okay, ready? You've seen the polls over the last week. I'm going through the roof. In Wisconsin, I'm way up over every Democrat.
You are.
The swing states, which is the important one. You know, you have two elections. You have electoral college. You have popularity. I like to go for the electoral college. By the way, for me to win the popular vote would be much easier. The electoral college is much harder to win. Much harder. You have to go to many more places, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the swing states, I'm way up in every one of them because of the impeachment thing. And it's crazy what's going on because the people get it. It's a hoax. This is a continuation of the witch hunt, which has gone on from before I got elected.
Well,
if you look at we talked about the insurance policy, right? We've got an insurance policy just in case she loses, right? This was a text between the two great lovers. If you look at that was long before the election took place. So this was taking root with Comey, who's a totally disgusting human being. By the way, and if I didn't fire Comey, I would have been in some trouble right now.
And maybe you should have done it right away.
Because they were coming after
but Mr.
me,
President,
and I wouldn't have known that he was a phony, and that Strzok and Page and all of these people, McCabe, the whole gang of them, we wouldn't have been able to find it out. Turned out to be the best move I've ever made, firing Comey, because they were looking to take down the President of the United States.
Yeah, he doesn't agree. John Bolton has just gone back on Twitter. His account was frozen for 2 months. Did you guys freeze his account?
No, of course not. Of course not. No, I actually had a good relationship with John. We disagreed on some things and some methods, but I actually had a good relationship.
Okay,
no,
Mr. President, let's talk about 2020 because we saw the last Democratic debate and the ratings were really low. I don't know if that's an indication that it's too early or if people are not interested in these candidates, and maybe that's why some of these other guys are talking about jumping into the race. Elizabeth Warren says she's going to use tax dollars to take down your border wall. Listen to this.
Would you ask taxpayers to pay to take down any part of the wall on the nation's southern border?
If there are parts of the wall that are not useful in our defense, of course we should do it. The real point here is that we need to stop this man-made crisis at the border. Trump is the one who has created this crisis.
Tom Honan said the reason that the numbers are down is because of the wall. What do you say?
Absolutely. We've built almost 100 miles of wall. It's going up fast. Army Corps of Engineers is doing it. We have the funding. I took it out of the military. You know, I've rebuilt the military. That's another thing we've done, which was when I took it over. And we defeated ISIS. We took the caliphate. We just took out al-Baghdadi. I don't want it, frankly. But if Obama did al-Baghdadi, the biggest terrorist in the last 100 years, if Obama did it, it would be a 2-year story. With me, I got a day. Not that it matters, but it was a tremendous thing. We defeated him. But let me just tell you about the wall. Without the wall, and Tom Homan's a great guy, without the wall, it would be a disaster.
Absolutely.
And if she took down the wall, you need the wall. You know, they want to have drones. They want to have drones flying around up and down and, you know, this and that. It's all just a waste of money. Other than we have drones flying to see if anybody's trying to break through the wall. Because if you have a bulldozer or if you have heavy blowtorches and things, you know, you can break through. We have the wall is electrified so that if anyone touches it, we know exactly what's happening. We can get there within minutes. No, we built
You electrified the wall?
We're building a fantastic wall, and without the wall, now, it just means she's going to lose. Because one of the issues that I won on last time was border security, and you see where the numbers are. Now, until I got the wall built, I got Mexico because we're not allowed. Very simply, we have loopholes, and they're called loopholes for a reason, because they're loopholes. I could end those loopholes in 15 minutes with crazy Nancy Pelosi and Schumer. I could end them in 15 minutes, but they don't want to meet about them because they like trouble. Because the more trouble we have, they don't care about the country. The more trouble they have, the better it is for them. They think the worse it is for me. So I got the wall built despite them fighting me. I got so much money for them, for the military. The one thing they wouldn't give you money for is the wall because they thought that was a very good thing politically. If you don't have a wall, we don't have a country. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country.
Mr. President, right now, Elizabeth Warren wants to take it down. Who do you think right now is likely to be your opponent? Mayor Pete is evidently moving up in the early states. Joe Biden wins most national polls. Elizabeth Warren is still among the leaders. Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I don't know if Joe can make it mentally. He's off. There's no question about it. So I don't know if he's going to make it mentally. If he can get through it, you know, without cracking up, which is a real question. I mean, many people have asked it. Maybe him. You know, don't forget, people have seen his name for a long time. But Pete is, you know, I call him Alfred E. Newman. To me, he reminds me of Mad Magazine Alfred E. Newman. I don't see him. I don't see him dealing with President Xi. I don't see him dealing with Kim Jong-un. I just don't see it. But maybe he is. I mean, look, I wouldn't mind running against any of them. So I would say maybe Biden has the advantage. I think Pocahontas has come up from the embers. I hit her too early. I came up with this name that seems to have stuck very nicely.
Bloomberg?
But they don't use it. I don't see him. I know him pretty well. He finished very weak in New York. He starts with, you know, telling you what you can drink, what you can do, No, I don't see it. He's desperately, I'm sure he's going to run. He is going to spend, he's got the money to put on a great campaign. I don't see it. I think his time has come and gone.
It would be hard to believe a New York real estate developer or a billionaire could ever be president. Mr. President, just kidding. You know, the stock market hit another record this past week. Clearly, that is your strong suit going into the 2020 because, you know, you look at the polls, people feel better about their money situation right now.
Right.
Going forward toward November of next year, how are you going to make sure everybody understands what you have been able to do over the last, 4 years?
By talking to you. That's all I have to do. Everyone's listening right now. Nobody's listening to any other show. But look, strong suit. My strong suit is I rebuilt the military, the vet. For years, you would turn on your television. Every night you'd see a story about the vets and how badly they're being treated, and it's a horror show. You don't hear that anymore. I got Veterans Choice. That means they can go see a doctor if they have to wait online. They go see a doctor, we pay the bill. It's unbelievable what happened. I have veterans accountability. You couldn't fire. For 50 years they've been trying to get it. You couldn't fire because they were union and civil service. So if you had somebody beating up vets, stealing from the VA, you couldn't fire them for any reason.
That's certainly something to run on, and they are appreciative. On the economy,
I got that.
President Xi.
But listen, rebuilding the military, all of the things I've done. Plus, we've had peace. You know, we're pulling way down in Afghanistan. We're working on an agreement now with the Taliban. Let's see what happens. The last time I was supposed to have an agreement, and they thought when they came over, they thought it would be good to kill people so they could, you know, negotiate from a position of strength. They killed 12 people in order to show they're tough guys, and I canceled the meeting. I said, that's not what we're dealing with. Anyway, I'm pulling back. I just pulled out of Syria, except I kept the oil, if it was okay with you.
600 guys there, right? Real quick, President Xi has just said this. We want to work for a phase one agreement on the basis of mutual respect and equality with the United States. Where are you at? You were kind of down on a deal and the market kind of dipped on this. Where do you stand right now with the trade deal with China?
Very good. We have a deal, potentially very close. He wants to make it much more than I want to make it. I'm not anxious to make it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We never took in 10 cents. We are not paying like, they fed the line, the media fed the line about us paying. Now, normally you would pay for tariffs, but China...
But you heard what he just said, Mr. President. He wants to do a deal. I very rarely see that. We want to work out a phase one agreement.
I didn't like his word equality because we started off so low. We've lost $500 billion a year for many, many years. We've rebuilt China, and I give him a lot of credit. The ones I don't give credit are our past presidents, and especially the last one with his crummy vice president. China took us to the cleaners. He didn't even know that. Biden in the first debate said, oh, these are wonderful people. Sure, they're wonderful people. We're giving them $500 billion a year. $500 billion. That's not including theft of intellectual property, etc. So I told President Xi, this can't be like an even deal because we're starting off from the floor and you're already at the ceiling. So we have to have a much better deal. The bottom line is we have a very good chance to make a deal.
And not to mention what's happening in Hong Kong with these, with the pro-democracy protesters.
That's a complicating factor. There's no question about it. And if it weren't for me, Hong Kong would have been obliterated in 14 minutes. He's got 1 million soldiers standing outside of Hong Kong that aren't going in only because I ask him, please don't do that. You'll be making a big mistake. It's going to have a tremendous negative impact on the trade deal. And he wants to make a trade deal.
And if I could just...
Brian, one thing before I get off, I just want to say one thing. We have the strongest economy in the history of our country. We have the best unemployment numbers we've ever had. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, the best in history. We have the best unemployment and employment numbers. More people working today than ever before. But listen to this. We have now the greatest economy that we've ever had. We've increased by $20 trillion. China's gone down probably by $30 or $35 trillion. If Crooked Hillary had won, China would now be the largest economy in the world. They were going to surpass us, expected to, in the second year of the presidency. Right now, they are
farmers do need relief.
They'll never catch up.
But the farmers were hoping for that huge purchase, and it looks like they want to do a deal. But
Brian, they have it. Wait. Just one thing. So they have it because I said, how much have the farmers lost because of China targeting them? Sir, $16 billion and $12 billion the previous year. I gave them $12 billion out of the tariffs, had tens of billions left over, and I gave them $16 billion out of the tariffs and had tens of billions left over, goes into the Treasury. Brian, our farmers are doing great.
Right.
And now we just signed a deal with Japan, $40 billion they're buying from the farmers. We just signed a deal with South Korea, a tremendous deal. We're making tremendous deals. But you have to understand, these deals with China, they've been taking advantage of us for 25 years. It's hard for them to understand it's not going to happen anymore. And now they understand.
They are calling on you to veto legislation. They are calling on you to veto legislation coming out of the Senate that supports the Hong Kong students. What are you going to do?
Well, I'll tell you, look, we have to stand with Hong Kong, but I'm also standing with President Xi. He's a friend of mine. He's an incredible guy. We have to stand, but I'd like to see them work it out, okay? We have to see them work it out. But I stand with Hong Kong. I stand with freedom. I stand with all of the things that we want to do, but we also are in the process of making the largest trade deal in history. And if we could do that, that would be great. China wants it. We want it. And I will say this. If it weren't for me, thousands of people would have been killed in Hong Kong right now, and you wouldn't have any riots. You'd have a police state. But thousands of people. The only reason he's not going in is because I'm saying it's going to affect our trade deal. You don't want to do that.
President,
I speak to him.
So you're running in 2020, and many people we all just assumed your vice presidential nominee would be Mike Pence, but then we're reading headlines about Kellyanne Conway's husband saying that Nikki Haley is fighting for that position. I'm a South Carolinian, originally from South Carolina. Nikki Haley was our governor, and I know she really did a good job as an ambassador. So who's going to be your running mate in 2020?
No, she's great. Well, look, first of all, Kellyanne is great, but she's married to a total whack job. I think she must have done some number on him, Ainsley. I don't know what Kellyanne did to that guy, but because I don't even know him. I mean, I met him for
George
second.
Conway.
He's got to be some kind of a nut job. She must have done some bad things to him because that guy is crazy. But you know what? Mike Pence is a great vice president. He's our man. 100%. And Nikki will absolutely be involved. She's a friend of mine. She endorsed me with the most beautiful endorsement you've ever heard. She did a great job at the UN. She's now in the private sector. I assume she's doing very well. But Nikki will be back in some form because she's great. And she's my friend. But no, Mike Pence, I know I've seen this rumor. It keeps, popping up. And Nikki would be great, but Mike Pence has done a phenomenal job as vice president. He's our guy. He's my friend. Look, we have a great team.
Okay,
it's just been a very strong team.
Mike Pompeo going to the Senate. Are you going to push him to do that?
So Mike has done an incredible job. You know, I have an incredible cabinet. We don't get enough credit. We have incredible. Mike graduated #1 at Harvard Law, #1 at West Point. He's an incredible guy doing a great job in a very complicated world, doing a great job as Secretary of State. Remember, they all said, Brian, I'd be in World War III my first day. And now they're saying, wow, he's much more moderate. Well, actually, I rebuilt the military to a level that nobody's going to play games with us, but if we don't have to use it, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So Mike would win easily in Kansas, great state, and it's a Trump state. He'd win easily, and if I thought they had somebody out there that couldn't win, and Mike would really, he loves what he's doing, but if I thought they had somebody out there that, and he came to me and said, look, I'd rather stay where I am, but he loves Kansas. He loves the people of Kansas. If he thought there was a chance of losing that seat, I think he would do that, and he would win in a landslide because they love him in Kansas.
Well, I am from Kansas, and you're right. It is a great state. Mr. President, a moment ago you were talking about rumors. I'm sure you saw there was a rumor that, you went to the hospital last week. It wasn't on the schedule, and obviously something is really the matter with you. So can you tell us what's the matter with you?
Okay, yeah, a lot of things are a matter with me. I mean, #1, what did I do this for? But I love it, one of those things. So, I had some free time. My doctor calls, he said, would you like to do something? Because I'm going to be slightly busy in 2020 in January and February, especially if Crazy Nancy does something that nobody ever would even think of doing. So I'll be busy interviewing Biden, watching the interviews of Shifty Shift and why he made up all of this stuff and why he made up my statements. So the doctor goes, sir, would you like to go out, because I had 3 hours, would you like to go out to Walter Reed and do your first part of the physical?
Right.
I said, yeah, go ahead, let's go. So we go out. I go there. I meet with parents. One in particular, I meet with the wife and family of a young soldier who was being operated on and lost his arm and lost a leg. Horrible thing. And I spend time with them. Anyway, I do a very routine part of the physical, get in the car, come back. On the way back, I'm hearing that I'm in the hospital. And by the way, just so you know, like literally many cars go. It's not like, and they have a press van following. When I go, I'd love to be able to go like the old days where I get in a car, close the doors, lock them up, and drive, right? That doesn't happen anymore. It's a little different life. But we have a press van. You know how that works. And so we drive out to Walter Reed, greatest doctors, greatest everything, greatest place you've ever seen what they can do. So I start my physical, go see the soldiers, go see the families, did a little tour of the building, then get back in. On the way back, I'm hearing rumors that I'm in the hospital. Then I'm hearing rumors that I had chest pains. Then I'm hearing rumors that I had a massive heart attack. Then I'm hearing rumors that I'm not coming back. I'm staying at Walter Reed overnight and maybe for a long time. And I come home and my wife says, darling, are you okay? I say, okay from what? They say, they have it down. CNN, mostly CNN, but that stupid MSNBC, which is just as bad. Can you imagine? I made them so much money on The Apprentice, and that's the way. But anyway, those two. And so they started a false narrative.
All right.
And it was this. So the doctor gets on. He said, no, it didn't matter. No matter what we told them, they were going with it.
So your health is,
Mr.
President, your health is fine.
Well, let me tell you this. I just got back from Austin, Texas, where I was with Tim Cook. He's going to be building a $1 billion facility to make whatever he makes. That's Apple. And he's going to build this incredible facility. We toured another facility where they make the Mac Pro, which is phenomenal, which was opening. The reason it opened that day, they're making all of the Mac Pros all over the world. They're making them right in Austin, Texas. I left early. I got home very late, and I did many things in between. And I was sort of joking to some of the people. I said, hey, that's not bad considering these people had me all washed up and finished in a hospital, and I just get back from a 14-hour day.
Yep.
No, it's a disgrace. Let me just tell you what it really is. It's fake, disgusting news. I'll let you know. You know what? Nothing wrong if you're not feeling well. I have
right, but it wasn't on your schedule, and so people thought, there must be something.
No, because the doctor said, sir, I'm not blaming that. But
get a phase done.
Would you like to go in and knock off half of your physical? I said, you know what? That's not a bad idea because I had 3 hours.
All right.
So between that and watching a football game that I didn't want to watch I had 3 free hours.
All right.
And he said, would you like to do it? So here's the thing. It's so disgusting what they do. because they knew it wasn't true.
Right.
They went with it. After we certified with medical people, we had 3 medical people call them up, say it's not true. They went with it anyway. You couldn't kill the story because they're bad people. It's fake, corrupt news.
Well, Mr. President,
mostly.
I think it does good for your health. I'm not a doctor, but if I was writing a prescription, calling in every week to update the country about what's happening might be good for your health. That's something to consider.
Well, I don't
you
mind.
have the phone number.
Well, you know that I've been doing it for years with your group. With your group, I've been doing it for years.
The stress release.
If it was up to me, and it is up to me, and we'll do it more often. But I have a lot of fun doing it. And you know what? The nice part, we get the true word out. And here's the true word: our country is doing great. We're respected again. Our military is strong. We have the #1 economy in the world by far. And China's never going to catch us as long as we have a smart person where I am. They'll never catch us.